Okay, so um, how do we deal with data and bots together in the interface that we're talking about? And how do we deal with the customer? Like, what's our deployment pipeline? How do we work on something and then push it down so that they can then begin interacting with it?
Yeah. Okay, so the first one on the data. So what I'm doing at the moment is I will share because otherwise I'm just pointing at stuff. So we take the JSON retriever. It's got a minimal bot. It could be probably smaller, and then, for example, if I
JSON retriever. Okay, so you want to. So the JSON retriever would be a help file.
Yep.
And where does it know where its files are?
Well, at the moment, what I do is I paste this into this box and then see if it was the customer data JSON retriever. And the very first thing it adds is a bit of a prompt there. Cut and paste that into the session. So it's like,
sorry, what? You just you just dumped the prompt at the top of the data set.
It's been a bot with the JSON retriever as a sys prompt, and then the very first prompt is all of this, all the data, which is a horrible way of doing it.
You are a horrible person.
We need a better way of doing it, of course, but
yeah.
So the reason for doing that is what I want to do is to keep the JSON retriever agnostic of the data that's actually retrieving.
That's fine. So you want like an injection process to run. So how do you expect the JSON retriever to know where customer data.json was?
Right. So here's a start for 10. So at the moment, all I do is if I need a JSON retriever for the customer data, I create a bot and then dump that in. Now, if
but
that was
who commissioned it?
Who by dispatch?
Yeah, dispatch. Yeah.
Yeah. What is dispatch? No, that's there's a customer JSON retriever, and then passes off as a plan to. Okay, am I back in the room?
Welcome back. So the dispatch knows.
So the dispatch knows that because it knows the general schema, but not the specific data. It knows if it wants to ask something about customer data.
So dispatch knows that if it wants to talk to data, it needs to instantiate the JSON retriever, and it needs to point it, give it a reference to where the data is.
Yes.
All right, and so for the
way, yeah. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So for the meantime, can you take me to the prompt for the retriever bot?
Yep.
Oh, better yet, I could be not lazy and open it on my machine. Hang on.
Yep.
And scroll down to the very bottom.
Mm-hmm. I'm having real weirdness on the network connections here.
What you did?
Yeah, there's something weird happening.
Wait, I got it.
Oh, honestly.
What you did?
What the fuck's happening?
What
All right, now
wait.
oh no, it's you.
No,
All
that's
right.
me.
Oh, you
That's
bring it
me.
up.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Okay, so JSON retriever. Where the fuck is it?
Look at tracer bullet 10.
T10. Yep.
Yep.
JSON retriever. Yeah.
There.
Okay,
That's the
here
one.
we go.
Yeah.
You will now be given the JSON file. Okay, so what
Oh,
you
that looks light. Is that the right one? I'm sorry.
what is what you said?
I know it is, but it might not be what I meant. Honestly.
That's not my job, buddy. That's your job.
Hold on. Okay.
What are you doing?
Just about 10
Yep.
sessions.
Yep.
Session 02 and JSON retriever bots. I've not committed it.
Oh, well, shit, man.
That'd be why.
Whose bad is that?
Shut up. Okay. All right. There you go.
Hey, alrighty, I'm in business.
Okay, so there's a bit more to it now.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So blah 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 blah. Your input and blah 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 blah. You will now be given the JSON file. Okay, so if I just are you using those 3 dashes down here?
Yeah, those three dashes are quite useful to segment.
Yeah. So where do I put the data? Just the one new line and then the data?
3 dashes, new line, 3 dashes, and then insert the data between that.
So like that.
Yep.
And then like that. And then
dump the data in there.
Data goes here, right?
Yep.
Do you want to give it any prefixes like that?
Yeah, those are already in the data. So if you go down into
that's
say
already
data,
in the data.
Yep.
Where's down where?
So under data, customer data.
Yeah.
You see 3 dashes, boom.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're cutting it, are you cutting it from here, line 1, character 1?
Yes. The only reason for that is previously it was just spludging everything I just put in out again, which was not very interesting.
So literally, what you want is those 3 lines like that, and then I just go boom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So almost like I just literally dump the whole file.
Yep.
In there. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. What you should get is a yes back because.
What do you mean yes? I don't. Why?
If you go to customer data right at the top.
Oh god.
Because otherwise it just takes forever to actually churn out exactly what. Here's customer data. Respond only yes if you've read it and know if there's a problem. You are data source customer, so it knows what it is, and so you dump that in as a prompt, and it comes back with yes.
Okay.
Or it should.
Why do you need to do that first tick?
Which first tick?
The tick to get it to say yes or no. Like, why can't you just use it?
Because what the usual response is saying, I've got data, and now I'm going to print out everything you just told me, and then I'm sitting there for the next 3 minutes waiting for it to shut up.
Why would it do that? So are you saying it has to say something?
Yeah, it has to say something, and so I'm telling it to say just yes, and shut up. It's never said no. Never said no.
And how would the planner have called it? Because now it's like a It's a prompt. It's been injected with some data. How would it have been called?
So the path is planner bot is the one that comes up with the plan.
Yeah,
Dispatch bot is a bit of a stub. All dispatch bot is takes the plan and then says, what's the next step? And
yeah.
all I'm doing at the moment as a stub is copying and pasting the next step into a JSON retriever with the right data. I'm just doing it manually. But what the dispatcher is intended to do is it knows from the plan this step needs this JSON retriever. So I now call that JSON retriever and I'll give it, I'll tell it to instantiate
Okay,
itself with
so
the latest information.
the would you expect the plan execution to look a bit like this? Where this is like each step in the plan sort of thing?
Sort of thing. My laptop seems to be behaving now. Do you want me to show you?
Sure. I don't trust it, but sure.
Well, let's see if it actually stays up. That would be rather helpful. Too many tabs,
Too many tabs. Maxwell, I do believe that's the inscription that I would put on your gravestone if it was up to me.
Too many tabs. He's a decent bloke, but too many tabs. I'll be okay with that, actually.
The final system crash.
Right, where we're going to put this. There's that. Get rid of this. Too many fucking tabs. Okay, close enough. Right, so
Okay, so we'll start with just injecting all the data, and then that'll buy us enough time to get fancy and do looping and do like
yeah,
parallel processing of the data. So we'll just put it all in context window to start,
yep,
and then yeah, okay,
yeah, that's fine. Let me set up the pipeline, and you can feel free to mock because this is very mockable. But hey, man, cut and paste. Okay, so first thing would be a planner.
yeah. I'm still not sure that we've captured you in the process because you're moving levers,
Yeah, I'm
right? But
effectively
we need to
yeah,
that's
I'm the network.
orchestration.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the orchestrator. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's the planning bot. Okay, so the planning bot has an idea about the structure of the CRM, but doesn't have any of the live data. So it's got effectively the first field on each of the different data types.
Well,
So it
okay.
knows
How
how
did
to build it.
how did it strip that out? Like, have you manually kept those
Yes.
pieces of
Yeah, yeah,
data in sync? All right. So how are
yeah.
you
It's
going
horrible.
to
Yeah.
pull from a single source of truth?
Um, the what we could do is just take this first field in each of uh, the um, the dumps of data. So each of the JSON types. So customer ID, just bring the first field in, and that's it. As an example, that is probably not the right way to do it.
Shit.
But that's what I've got at the moment.
Uh,
Because what the planner really is the one that knows the structure of the entire database, but
yeah,
doesn't know
but
any of the live data, right?
isn't that that first row you're using it as a template, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So shouldn't the
So that
template be stored separately from the data?
it could be because
Because how I would imagine it being is that you've got a file called like .template.json, and then that's the
mhm.
templating thing, and then each individual record is stored as its own file, and each time any machine updates that file, it has to conform to the template.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
and then
absolutely.
that means you
So
can just pull the template out into the planner.
yeah, that's exactly it. The planner always needs to see the entire datascape, let's say. And if that was generated dynamically every time there was a new planner, or every time it was changed and you went back to the planner and asked, then that would be better. I've not done that. Just because I'm cutting and pasting, what I've done is take the first field of each of the chunks of data and stuck it into the sys prompt. It's
Okay,
really ugly,
all right.
really ugly.
So um, when I do the injection, what I need to do is I need to have a convention of slugs. Like, for example, I need to say, I'll just make this up, slug 01. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read this. Oh, fuck. I'm gonna read this file, and I'm gonna look for the. So in that front matter section, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna say something like slugs, and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna say slug underscore 01. But I now need to. I forgot how YAML does it, but it's like dot slash customer data dot JSON, or like I need to have I need some way to know where in this file I should inject that information, and I need
Okay.
to know where the info
So
came from.
here's a suggestion. All right. So the right the planner bot, the slug would be the template for the entire thing. And if we
Show me that template. Where is that template?
yeah, actually, I roll back. I'll put this back on the screen.
Yeah.
I roll back a slight bit on that. So there's two parts. There seems to be a consistent pattern here. There's two parts to every one of these doer bots. The first one is you are this blah blah blah. Here are your rules, that sort of thing, and then here's your context. So guidelines. Yep. We've already talked about splitting out the guidelines into tests. And now this is the context. Now, if I dumped a completely different JSON into this,
Hmm.
the planner should still work because the planner until this point doesn't know
Yeah,
anything
but
specific about
no,
this.
no, but that's just an example. Like, are you saying that the planner at some point gets injected with live data?
No, the planner should only know the template.
Okay, where
It
is the
doesn't have
template?
live.
Is the template here?
This is the template, and I've done
Why
a
is it
quick and
called?
dirty.
Yeah, but why is it called example?
Example is
Shouldn't it be called something a little more prestigious?
yeah. What do you suggest?
Well, it's not an example, is it? I mean, it's not like a take it or leave it kind of a thing. It's like, no, this is the template,
Yeah.
and you're going to stick to it, or you're going to
Yeah.
get
Okay.
fired.
Yeah. Oh, we could call that. This is the template that you must use.
I'd
Blah blah
call it,
blah. All
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
kind of
So
thing.
it's like CRM
Yeah.
JSON data template.
But
Okay, now is that template
yeah.
dynamic? Do you expect that to be read from the file system or modified independently of the sysprompt?
I would imagine it only gets this template only gets changed when we bump up to the kind of sysadmin layer where we've had something come back which is
Yeah,
added
but
in a field into
yeah,
this.
but when you modify that, like, is this the canonical version of that template?
Yes.
This is where the canon lives.
Yeah.
Okay,
But it doesn't
and
have no live data. And
what?
the important thing
Oh,
is
so it's
okay. So
right. So it's got nothing from the database makes it in here, but this template is the canonical template for all of the data across
yes.
the system, right? No matter where it's nested, no matter where it's placed, if it's
Yeah.
not referenced in this template, it's
Yeah.
illegal.
Right. And if the sysadmin changes it, this is where it goes, and this is percolates
So
down
if I
through
want to
testing and so
make
on.
modifications to the overall to every single file, then I need to modify this template and then roll the changes out that way, right?
Yes, correct. Now, the reason for that is the planner is the one that is saying, okay, so the example give, I think it was 4 calls ago, let's add red hair into a customer. Yeah, fine, you can do that. However, the next time the planner runs, it's not going to know if you stay, we want only brunettes. So it has to go back here. Otherwise, the planner's not going to be able, and without the planner, it's not going to be able to tell dispatch and et cetera, et cetera. So
All right. So
this
where
this is
when
where it starts.
you called the JSON retriever on customer data, where else is an example of it being called?
What, customer data
No, JSON
or any kind
retriever.
of data?
JSON retriever.
JSON
Because
retriever.
what I'm trying to figure out is like it's one thing to read from the file system and inject something based on a slug. It's an entirely different thing to decide what that slug is at runtime, right?
Yes. Okay. So, hopefully this answers your questions. I seem to be spazzing out my hands here. Um, the canonical is a planner. Then you get a plan out of the planner.
Yeah.
It goes to dispatch.
Yeah.
Dispatch knows about how it's chunked up. Again, doesn't know any live data, but refers back to the plan as its truth of source. Then, if the plan says I need to know about customer data,
Right.
it instantiates a JSON retriever just with the live data, and that's the first
Hang
time the
on,
live data
where
comes
did
in.
it even know that there was such a thing as customer data?
Which one?
The
Dispatcher
planner,
or planner?
or either one. Where did the notion of customer data come from? Even
Here.
data sources, and that's inside of the planner bot.
Yeah. So it knows if it's to do with customers, and we've given an example of what customer data means, saying you need to put in customers as the data source. So this is data sources within the CRM.
Data sources within the CRM,
Yeah.
customers. Okay, and so anytime it sees anything listed under data sources, it knows to use the JSON retriever bot as a way of, like, it needs to call the JSON retriever bot with a dynamically chosen data source, right?
Yeah, sort of. Let me show you
Sort
what
of.
we're in with a planner.
Well,
Yeah, give me 2
okay,
seconds.
but one last question before I listen to you. What,
Uh-huh.
where is I need some sort of a reference to the file locations of where this data came from. Now that's an aspect that you've been doing manually.
Yeah.
It needs to be tied in here somewhere so that I can match up. So when you say customers, what you mean is customer data.json.
That would be, I'd imagine, some kind of index. So I've been doing that. I
That's
see
in
it
your head, right?
manually. Yeah, it's in my
Yeah,
head, but the
yeah.
index is in my head. It's like what I do if it's like, oh, we need a customer
All right. Well, I mean,
data.
it
You
looks
know,
that loosely your naming convention has been this name uh, with data.json appended to it, which is a
yeah,
simple format to follow.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, hang on a sec.
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, we're good.
All right.
Okay. So, so.
So you see, yeah, yes. So the this is the planner bot. It knows. I've asked a question in natural language: list all customers. It knows previously that any question is related to customer information. and I've more closely defined that by giving it an example of a template of customer location or customer data further up.
Right.
And so what I'm asking for it is simply to, and this is just a one-step thing. Here's the action, and here's who we ask. It does that pretty well. That's why the planner needs to know the entire thing, because it needs to know
All
who
right.
it
Now,
asks.
when it makes its call, when it makes its function call, you're expecting it to call JSON retriever bot with one of the parameters being data source, and in this case, it's customers, right?
Not planner. I've got dispatch now. The reason I put dispatch is I want planner to be a kind of as pure function as possible. But dispatch allows for some of these steps are itself. It's like, count up how many responses you've got. But I'll give you an example for that. So, yeah. So if we now spin up a dispatcher, okay, so the dispatcher is to do with architecting just that session. So you got a plan, make that plan happen.
Right.
So, and it deals with error handling. It deals with eventually going back with the test bots and retrying and so on. But I don't want that in the planning bot, because the planning bot should be as pure as possible. Just say, here's the plan. So if you take, this is list all customers. You take this and nothing but that into this. Has it done it? Yep. Yeah. So that's just that straight JSON. Now you run. Now what the dispatch bot does is turn that into a bunch of steps, or it should do. Well, it's only one step. So then it's this part. It knows where it's sending it, and this is the prompt that it's sending to the customer data.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Shit, I can't hear you. God damn it.
You can't hear me. I can hear you.
Hold on, mate.
Yeah, you're fine.
Speak again.
Hello.
Oh yeah, it was good. Okay, sorry about that.
You're back. You're back. And this is a very simple example, because with a multi-step plan,
Yeah.
what the dispatcher does is orchestrate. It's the dispatcher that kicks off the drones. So the dispatcher says, okay, so we need a customer drone.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm going to get a JSON retrieval bot. I'm going to say, you got the general instructions. It's like you're a headless JSON retriever, and now you're a customer bot, because they're just giving you the customer data and now asking you to retrieve all customer records and come back with that. So there's 2 points, because at the moment, here's my, I'm leaking data all over the place here. So at the moment, so the next step, this is just like the bare retrieval bot. All it knows is to retrieve data and to answer questions that are proposed to it in JSON. So you can use exactly the same prompt for any bot you want. So to create this, and now this is something I really wouldn't want to do, cut and paste, because
Where did you put the dispatch bot? Where's an example of dispatch bot? Oh no, I got it. Sorry, I'm sorry. I got it.
Yeah. So we've gone planning bot, knows about the entire schema, has given a plan, but is completely uninterested in actually making that plan happen. And the dispatcher is the one who's trying to make it happen.
When the dispatcher gets called, is it ever called without a data source?
Uh, the only time is when it's self.
What?
So dispatch also has the ability to have a step in that it has to do.
So
So, for
the planner
example,
knows how to make a step.
count these things. Yeah.
The
So
planner knows how to
dispatch can.
make a step that is like internally referenced by the dispatcher.
That's right. That's right. So you'll see data source self, which just means dispatch bot. You figure this one out because
Oh,
it
so
doesn't require any specific data.
there's a special data source self,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do then is when I make the dispatch bot, I'll give it an isolate function that takes as an argument it takes data source,
Hmm.
and it's always going to call the JSON retriever, and it's going to call it with that extra parameter data source, which is then going to cause the help file to load. It's then going to inject the data that it read from the location given by the data source parameter into the prompt, and then it's going to run it after first
Yeah.
saying, getting that yes, no out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The one caveat to that is I'm thinking about creating one new bot, which is well, actually, interesting enough, I was calling it Dumbbot, but
Dumbbot.
yeah,
That sounds
it
like the
just
one that rules the world ultimately.
yeah, it just does the next step. So self, when I was getting dispatched to run a self step,
Yeah,
it was starting to get confused because it knew too much. But if I took that
right.
step and opened up another instance with
Yeah,
no sysprompt whatsoever,
right.
it got it first time.
You mean no
Uh,
sysprompt, like not even the dispatch bot's sysprompt?
No, just no sysprompt. It's just straight 40, vanilla. Because all the steps were there, and the last
Mm,
command is do step 3.
mm.
It got it and was getting it every time. And these are like base functions, like
Oh,
give
like
me the
very basic.
only odd
So
numbered,
okay, so
you know,
call self is really what you just made was a special bot that's like the
Dumbo. Yeah, yeah.
that's a very rude name to call something. Um,
But
okay,
if it's a non-dumb bot, it's got the payload. So you've got the JSON retriever,
yeah,
and it's like spinning up, and now you're a customer bot. But
okay.
you're only a customer bot because I've given you the payload of customer data. I could have given you, driver data, and now you'd be a driver bot.
So, what did you give me if I'm Dumbot?
Nothing,
Nothing.
absolutely nothing except steps. Let's see if we can
Okay.
get. I don't know.
Okay.
It's quite fun actually. If you can, I don't know if you
This
are interested or have time,
I
but if you ever have.
know that this is all this doesn't quite feel optimized for a machine. This feels like we can improve it or streamline it to take better advantage of the automation we can use. Um,
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it's all NL and cut and paste
right,
and
but
opening new tabs and so
it's
on.
this concept of a dynamic data source, and I'm just trying to figure out how that would work when we split the data into individual files. Because ideally, we don't want to stuff the whole. This is definitely for later, but
Hmm.
we need to know how to not stuff all the records in the context window because they won't fit once the data set gets large.
Yeah, yeah, which is why I've the first kind of cut on that is uh, these data sources here. But ideally, what we'd want is, well, I think what we'd want in order to follow this one bot, one function,
Mm,
is customer data has got what 20 customers in it.
yeah.
I'd want a kind of index, and they said we're now talking about customer number 2.
Oh, like a
So
compacted. You want like a compacted file that has.
uh, It depends on the overhead of calling and spinning up a
Yeah.
bot,
Well,
but
I
you're
mean,
going to get. I mean, there's obviously diminishing returns because you wouldn't want then to go down to customer number two name as a single bot. So there is a point where you kind of stop.
right, like you don't want one file per field in the data
Right.
set, right? Because that's a little bit
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
man.
Because
But
well, it's just stupid because the overhead of spinning up a bot, and also it's easily
yeah,
replicated,
okay.
by
Well,
grep or something. Yeah.
yeah, but then what if you only stored the data as index files and got rid of the source completely? Like what if it was really just like here's all the names, here's all the last names, here's all the um,
Yeah, you
emails.
you could do that, but then you need to show the relationships between the two.
Right, but if you bound it all around that customer ID, then you'd have like basically you'd have as many index files as you have fields, but you could deal with them that all fit likely in a context window.
Say that again.
If you made one index file for every data field
Mm.
and you bound them all by the customer ID. So like the email file, the email index is just customer ID index. Sorry, customer ID email. Next one, next customer ID, next email, and then you had this number of files for each field in the template, and so you can load up each index file, and then there's no need to have the core data because you can reassemble the core data if you ever need it. But it seems like you almost never do.
Um, yeah. What? So the database is what? Just a set of assertions.
Yeah, well,
Customer
uh,
ID one has email this.
yeah, because what it sort of feels like is happening, is that you've needed to put the descriptions. See how you got the descriptions here, and the necessarily very close to the value, because
Yeah,
otherwise
which
the
is a lot of duplication there. Yeah.
well, it's a lot of overhead, it's a lot of clutter, and then when you add that all up, it makes the if you only care about the first name, you've also had to stuff all this stuff in there as well.
Well, the interesting thing is now I dabbled over the weekend with what would happen if I regenerated this data in Cipher, say.
What's Cipher?
Um, it's the Neo4j
Oh,
graph
right. Yeah. Okay.
uh, language,
Yeah.
which is it's really neat. They say it's really easy to understand. It's not actually uh, because you have you create nodes away from the linking of nodes, but it's very easy to display because you can
Yeah.
do groovy pulley aroundy graphy things.
Yeah.
However, I did get quite good results from that, which sounds similar to what you're saying. So basically, there is a whole bunch of nodes called customer IDs, and then boom, 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 all the way
Well,
down.
can I
And
can I
then
give you
another
an,
one would be names, which link back. Sorry, go ahead.
can I give you an example of that? Now, which file are we in here? Customer data.json.
I can't see you. Well, I
No, no,
start
I know, I know, I know, I
hogging
know.
the. I'll hog the thing. There you go. Off.
Okie dokie. Now, I am not promoting support for this idea. I just want to suggest it in case. Um, I just want to see if it can work because there are issues with this data format. Um,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but we got to pick a data format is the thing, right? I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
No,
helpful
no,
here.
sorry. No, no, I know, I'm
Okay.
being facetious. Just because I've been fucking knocking my head against this data format, and it just
Yeah, yeah. You and
it's
me
very
both, right?
wasteful. It's
Right, and
very
right,
wasteful.
right, right.
Yeah.
And so you've struggled with it. You've fought with it a lot. And now I want to suggest a change. can I hide all my other sessions here? Because I don't really want to. Yeah, there we go.
Yes, it's not
Hey,
a,
boom.
yeah.
Okay, so not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. Okay. The primary key is, was it customer ID?
Customer ID, yeah. Well, this looks a lot like going through like fourth, fifth normal form.
I
When you're
don't,
talking about
I
primary
don't
key.
want, I don't want to know about your normal form.
Yeah, no, that's.
Okay, like I don't
I'm
want to
just
know.
pointing out, man.
Yeah,
We don't want to go down that route, but anyway,
no,
okay.
yeah.
It's a great way for storing knowledge that's complete, coherent, but absolutely fucking brittle in
Coherent
terms of
knowledge is
changing anything.
uninterpretable knowledge.
Yeah,
I
it doesn't.
prefer,
It doesn't deal with noise.
yeah.
Fourth normal form does not deal with noise. There, I've said it. That's helpful to get off my chest there.
Well, I hope you feel better.
I do, actually. Thank you.
There's a
Yeah.
lot more you need to get off.
I'm going to get a t-shirt on that.
Oh, fuck. That was not very
Oh,
helpful.
it's doing your... I'm getting split tested all the way by opening out at the moment. It's
Just always pick the run on the right, and then they'll leave you alone.
Let me see why I'm doing that, if I can get up what I did with graph or cipher.
Because I just wonder if you haven't, the modifications you've made to the data format aren't because of the issues you were having using the platform tooling, and that if some of those hindrances were removed, there might not be a more compact way to represent it.
I think there definitely is. Oh, hey, I've still got my tab up. See, this is the value of keeping all your tabs up all at once. So, I still got my tab up where basically I dumped the entire JSON in to Hal and said, hey, do you know about graph databases? And
Right.
went, yeah, sure do. And it recreated it, and then I gave it some questions, and it got it right. But it's a flatter structure.
Flatter, yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. I don't want to interrupt your bit here, but
Oh, you ain't
afterwards
interrupting
I'll
me.
show you. Okay. Well, I'll show you.
This bot has lost its mind.
Yeah, they tend to do that. Okay, so basically I dumped the entire JSON into HAL and said, I want to write this in Cypher. Do you know about Cypher? And it's like, yeah, I know about Cypher. So it came up with this, which is much flatter. So the create is nodes.
Yeah.
So you create, and then at some point you get to links. Well, actually, I think I might have not got as far as match. So then that's a much more parsimonious way of looking at it. So you can match. Well, this is obviously still how discussing with me is Cypher a good way of doing it. But in terms of response from 4.0, it knows about Cypher, and it can take that big JSON back that previously I had, which is quite chunky, and it will talk to truck, so can retrieve trucks, and then sort truck ID, and then the event is from the events log, event ID, and then create truck involved in event. And that's, I don't know, I'm a big fan of graph, but it
You
seems to,
just like the
the reason,
nesting.
sorry?
You just like the nesting.
Well, the thing is, it's a much more parsimonious way of looking at it. However, I didn't go down this very long, as you can see, because I don't have any. That's the end of my interaction
Yeah.
with. Yeah,
Okay. Not
I did a
to.
bit more.
This is. I'll show you what I meant. I beg your pardon? Oh, you broke up again. Sorry, man.
Don't worry.
Okay, so for example, this would be firstname.md, and it would say customer 03 Carol, customer 02
Okay, so
John.
list of brute facts. Okay,
Right, and then it would
Carol
be
is 03, Johnson is 02. Yeah, okay.
lastname.md, customer
Okay, I'm assuming
003.
that's in another file because that was first
Yeah,
name.md.
yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So the second one is like, you know, whatever.
There's a number of benefits to this because you can put in a prompt at the top saying description of the
Yeah,
first
right.
name
Because you
is
only need to say the
X, and you
description
do it once.
once, and then it
Right,
has the added
right.
benefit that the format of the file is impossible to screw up. Whereas like this format over here is quite a delicate, complex thing to like
Right.
if
Okay,
I want to
so
if I want to write to this and I want to say, okay, I want to change the last name of customer 3 to be Bartholomew, then
yeah,
like to drill into that and just sort of surgically snip that one piece in that file.
it is quite expensive and
Right.
prone. Well, expensive equals error prone, right?
Right. And so
Yeah.
I would need to make some tooling that caused the bot to call a function in a very specific way that could surgically make that modification. Because otherwise it keeps wanting to, it could just spit out the whole file again. That's fine
Right.
too, but it,
Okay.
it does
So
feel like the more you regenerate the data, the higher the chance that there's an error. And so you need
okay.
some error
So here's my
checking in there.
I agree with the spirit of it. So let's drill down on this one. All right. So the trick is there in the connections. So, for example, if I ask it to say, "Hey, what customers do we have?" Right?
Yeah,
It's going to need to know what the format of a customer is.
right.
Let's say if I say that that our typical one, which is how many customers do we have with the last name starting with J? So it needs to know what the customer is,
Yeah.
which is not going to be in first name, last name, or anything like that because it doesn't know. It knows about customers. So we need some format where a customer involves first name, last name. Maybe these are all links to this, to these other files.
Yeah,
But then
I know.
we also need like connections between things that are not a direct derivative. For example, the customer has just asked for something on the phone, which is an event, and so there needs to be a link. Which is why I was going down the graph. This is very very graphy. So you have your nodes, and then you have your connections between nodes. The
Okay.
node itself can have qualities which we could split out individually
All
by
right. Well,
files and then read them in.
I
Um,
know what you mean, but the fallacy of both of these approaches is that
mm,
it's not natural. My ideal um my ideal data format that I really hope we can get to somehow is simply this, that it's a file, a markdown file named as customer, and it says first name Carol, last name.
Okay. Which is like a compacted. What we've got at the moment is a customer JSON, but it's just
Yeah,
basically
but it's see the issue is that by using you told me that you needed to use JSON because you were having errors of keeping of constraint, right? It was difficult to constrain the
well, it's because
generation
of
of
the
the data,
descriptions. Yeah,
and
specifically having a very close description to what the thing you're actually calling. That makes a real difference.
right. But if I have, surely there's a markdown format that I can have. Um, the reason why I like this is that I think
Yeah, I think we're.
some
Can
of
I
your
just turn my
problems.
heater off because I'm sweating my balls off here.
Thanks, buddy.
Oh, I should
It's,
probably say that on the YouTube.
yeah, that's cool. Whatever. It's marked as not safe for
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. That's
Um,
good.
so
Yeah,
this this is my preferred format because when I go to show it in the interface, I simply just show it. There's no
all
translation
right,
that's occurred.
right, right, right.
Now
Okay, okay.
some of your issue is
Hmm.
because you were trying to deal with the data in a single place. Like it's all in one place, which makes it incredibly confusing for the bot to process. Whereas if these records are isolated and you're like feeding it, okay, here's the template description and here's an instance of that template, you've narrowed the scope of the awareness. When you put the entire data file into context, you create many more options for which it must consider and narrow down before it chooses its next word.
Yep, yep. Can I?
Grab the screen? Sure.
Yep. I'll do that in a second, but I'm really badly typing. I'll now see what I'm typing.
Why don't you do the have you used the
Um,
disk pass through button? Should be like
okay,
right
yeah,
there
no, yeah, I have, and it's kind
because
of
it works
okay.
flawlessly for me. It's like
Uh,
instant
is it?
feedback, perfect alignment. I
Uh,
mean, it's my actual hands. So.
okay, something like this is fine, right? So let's say if we go full on file, yeah, Dave. Now, and then if we're to say that a customer also has, so we're basically we're implying knowledge by the structure here, right? So if you are lower in the structure, then that implies that it's part of the higher structure. So Carol Smith, Dave, whatever, right? Or Tai, as it comes out. Now, that's great, but the point is, this is all the static stuff. The stuff that I need to feed the bots is customer has first name, surname, and that we can find first names in customer stroke first name. We can find surnames in customer stroke surname. Now, say if we had a connection, so customer, ignore the typing, 001 loves 002, we need to be able to state that fact somewhere. So then there's a connection between it. And
Okay, so a
customer,
more specific example would be like, could I say the invoices for the customer, like a link,
right,
right,
right.
and then like a GPS location inside the customer record, is a relationship or a pointer
Yeah, yeah,
to a
yeah,
different
yeah.
type of data, right?
Exactly. So I love your thinking around just flat MDs of here
Flat
are all the first
MDs, dude.
names.
Like this.
Yeah,
Well,
I love that.
no,
But
no. Hang
it's
on,
the navigation. It's the
hang
navigation
on.
around it.
This index thing. This obviously does not suit as the primary data source. Doesn't
Hmm.
doesn't work. But if we find that we need to create indices to optimize common queries, then we can derive these things in order to do that. So,
Uh, yeah, yes, we can. Well, actually, we could do it if we didn't mind the runtime overhead of spinning up the bots. So, for example, right, we'll take it. Oh, you keep on bumping me off the screen. How rude! How rude! Right. Okay. Uh, so we've got two customers. Customer one loves customer two. Customer two does not love customer one. Now that's a relationship between two nodes, right? Now what I would need to do is the bot would need to know that there's a thing called a love connection. Yes, no. Um, oh, fuck off. And I would need to know there's a thing called a customer, and I would need to know that a customer had an ID, had a first name and a second name,
all right,
and
can you?
so
What are you trying to do here? Because I don't
yeah.
get your overall aim.
Overall, I'm trying to say what's the prompt. So the prompt on this one
Prompt for what?
is does Carol love Mr. Tai? Now we need to give the did she doesn't matter.
What are you?
Um,
Why are you showing me this? What is the prompt for?
the prompt is in the if we were to go down this route, which I do like, of splitting out the data by one file for all the first names, one file for all the surnames, etc., etc., etc. The bots are not going to know what the hell, and so you need some kind of way or to represent
Okay,
that
I want to
connection.
completely retract that. I think that's a terrible idea of making splitting, breaking out, making index files, and then trying to use them as a primary data source. I think that's a
Okay.
terrible idea.
Yep. All right. Yep.
Um,
Cool.
now, what I would what I what I would ideally like to see, my favorite data format, and I know there's going to be problems with it,
Mm-hmm.
is just pure plain MD files with, so
Mm-hmm.
this is one MD file, which is the instance of the customer record, and then we have a customer template file stored in the same directory as the MD files that has the descriptions. And so when you go to do anything that uses these files, the bot is given the customer template and ideally given one customer record. So when there's like 20 customer records, you're making 20 bot calls. Each bot is being given the template and the record and being asked to consider the question in that very isolated, sterile environment.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Okay. That's
Okay,
not far from the model that we've got. So the model that I've been pursuing at the moment, forget JSON, we can move to MD.
it's just because
The
when you try and
Yeah,
dump it all in there, it
yeah,
it's bad,
the
right? Because it's
yeah.
too much information to get right.
I've not tried it because I was like buggering on.
One of
But
the
I
rules
suspect
seems to be that the smaller the data, the better the quality of the output.
yeah, but also the proximity of the description, the
Right,
better the quality of the output.
right, and also the
So
ratio of description to data. So if you
yeah,
only gave it the template and one record, it's a 50-50. So
right.
it's
So
got the same weight.
here's a thought. Um, I'm not going to bother typing it up. I'm just going to describe it.
Just tell me.
Say
Just
if
tell me.
I took each of the JSONs and had a dictionary at the start saying if I mention a field below,
Yeah.
here's the description of it, and here are all the fields. I suspect that's probably going to work quite well.
All right. Do you think that you could make this work using Markdown like this?
Yeah, I do. I
All right.
do.
Why do you want to
Yeah.
use JSON instead of Markdown?
No, I don't. It's one of these vestigial things of the
I don't know
hierarchy of
that
stuff I've
word.
been looking at.
What does vestigial mean?
Meaning no longer useful, but it was useful in the past, but
Oh,
it's
like
still
a
hanging
belly
around. A
button.
bit like your appendix. Yeah, a bit like your appendix.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
It's like,
So I guess that was my worry, and that's why I wanted this meeting tonight, was because there's
yeah,
probably a bit of vestigial. Is it vestigial or vestigial?
vestigial, the V, vestigial.
Oh,
Yeah.
that made it less clear.
Yes, you mean
Vestigial.
Scott. Vestigial. What are you saying, man?
Yeah, if you
Vestigial.
could
Come on.
say it in English, I would understand it. Vestigial. There's some
No
vestigial.
longer useful. No longer useful.
Right,
Um,
because of the constraints of the tooling you were working with. But the I believe, well, no, that's different. The money making side of me wants us to need many parallel bot calls.
yes.
Right now, I'm not sure
Yeah.
that's entirely greed. That's also seems to give the highest quality results, because multiple parallel bots is something that's bloody hard to do.
Oh,
And if
yes.
it turns out that it gives
Yes.
you the best quality output, then we're in
Yeah.
a good position,
And
right?
that's true all the way up to AGI. It's when we're sub
It's just,
AGI,
it's,
multiple bots are always better. Always better.
well, I would argue
I'm
that
pretty
even
convinced about that.
AGI, if you look at the smartest person on the planet and the dumbest person, they all
A
prefer,
team of smart people are much better than one person, right? Yeah.
but they all prefer to receive their data in small amounts. Every person struggles with a big blob of all this data, right? The more you can isolate it down.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that seems to be the one of the overarching themes is it's like there's context, it's really important,
Mm.
but focus as well. So I could,
Focus is everything.
hand an AGI War and Peace, and I could have edited that with my password in the middle of it and written it in Russian. It's going to be really hard to find my password inside of
That's
War
right.
and
That's
Peace.
right. And asking a machine to take that whole thing in one context hit
It's
and
expensive,
find your password
right?
seems remarkably harder than just giving it one paragraph at a time and saying, does something look like a password? Does it look like a
Yeah, yeah. It's
password? Right?
from Jude's World. It's called dirty triage, right? And this is why multiple bots work, because multiple bots are dirty triage. It's
Right.
like
But
with the
it's
least amount of effort, they say no or yes, and if
it's
it's yes, you can go down in more detail.
right. Okay, so you are unable to work with this format en masse because of the restriction of your tools right now. Do you think
No,
that? What?
incorrect. So that's
Okay.
incorrect. I discovered that adding a description field into a JSON got a higher result, and so I've not gone back and ever tried it back in MD.
Okay.
It could
Do
be
you think
that
that you can figure out for me, pretty please, with cherries on top, if you can make it work with this type of thing where you've got one markdown file for the record, one markdown file for the template, and you're only asking the bot a consideration of one customer at a time? Because I
that
th-
feels
I
right. That
I
feels
think
right.
our
Yeah.
system works better with this data format, because I'll tell you a bunch of reasons why.
Mm.
If I want to edit the first name,
Mm-hmm.
regenerating the whole record is really not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
For right, it's like, just here's a record, rewrite it with the name changed. Okay, good. Referring to the first name or changing only the first name is an easy thing for the bot to do because it understands headings. Whereas when you're
Yes.
asking it to work with JSON,
Oh,
it's
will you
not.
give me 2 secs?
Yeah.
I will be right back.
Okay. No,
I've got a knock at the door.
okay.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of something really interesting. Hello. Hi. Uh, okay. This is really important. Good. It's quality stuff. I don't know if it's important yet, but quality. Oh, I've got cats now. Sorry about that. Oh, I just stood on the cat because I've got a headset on. Oh, fucking hell.
If you do it enough, they'll go away, possibly
Okay.
permanently.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I'm riffing on what you're saying here. I
all
think
right.
you've got a brilliant avenue to go down here.
Yeah,
So carry
because
on. Yeah.
the reason why I like it is I can display it to the customer in one hit, bang. I also like
Right.
it because if you somehow find yourself without the AI, it still makes sense to you. You can look at these files and be like, oh, I'll just manually change it. When you're asking the user or the human to be like, okay, here's all the changes you wanted. Here's the diff, left hand side, right hand side. Are these changes
Yeah.
okay? If it's in Markdown and we present it as, preview viewed Markdown, which is like this easy on the eyes kind of format, and you're
Yeah.
showing the diff, that's sort of much more approachable to the human. Whereas trying to show
Yeah.
them a diff of JSON is like, they're like, I don't know what this is. Or if you're trying to make it pretty, that's a lot of extra work for us to process the data format to present it better. If we can
Okay.
do right, like
All
it's
right. Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
raw. It's
I've got a
absolutely
few
raw.
follow-ons. So right. I bought into this as the Nexus. Uh, now, um, this effectively is. So there's the nodes, which on the last screen was the first name, last name, and so on. So there's one question I'll come back to on that. But the really important thing in terms of inference and intelligence is the relationship between nodes. For example, um,
Yeah, so that's what
customer
you'd use this
three
header
here
for. That's what you'd
has.
use this table for. Where you'd be like, this would be
Where did that?
invoice number.
Did you just? How
I
did you
just
do
did
that?
that.
I missed it. I was pontificating.
You're too busy gas bagging.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying.
And I totally missed what you just did there. What did you
I
just do?
I made a markdown table.
GPS location MD.
No, sorry. So I would say invoice history,
Right. Okay.
right?
So
And then
these are the links. Excellent.
yeah,
Excellent. So
right.
what was row column could be, we could ID each column or
Well,
whatever.
it's just traditional data at that store at that point, right? You've got the invoice
Right.
numbers, you've
Right.
got your date, you got your date in a standard ISO format, you've got
Right. So what I'd have there then is I would have the ND retrieval bot, we'll call it now. I
yeah,
say, okay, so the structure of that would be number one, definitions, so that is not going to go and hallucinate.
right.
So the definition would have one line for every thing you mentioned. The first name means this, last name means this, GPS location means this, and that just helps it out. And then you have a whole bunch of data.
No.
Oh man, I thought we were closer.
Yeah,
No.
but no, because what I want to know first is,
Mm.
can you do direct queries on the record, on a single record, using this markdown format? And if you can't, well, fine. We need to change tactics. But the second thing I want to know is, when you're doing bulk queries, how can I generate an intermediary file
Mm-hmm.
that's transient and gets binned that I can use to um, fit in context window and make the query? So Like,
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah, no,
you know what I
I get
mean?
what you're saying, but because that's what DispatchBot is essentially meant to
Right.
do.
And
So,
so what I'd
step
really
one,
want to
step two,
do,
step three, take
right,
all the
right, right,
results,
right.
do something on step
And
four. Yeah.
at the moment, you've been using JSON retrieval bot as a big black box that's just like dunk input output, right?
Yep.
But
Yep. Yep.
I need it to be more finesse than that because I need it to be two stage where first of all it says, okay, I'm going to craft a query or a sysprompt that's going to be executed against every single record, and it's going to output a a concentrated a reduced form. Like this is really just map reduce.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do is I want to assemble all of the reduction into one file that's temporary and use that to answer the primary query.
Right. Okay. So, what if I understand what you're saying is we've got a whole bunch of nodes.
Right.
We've got a separate bunch of MDs, which are the uh, relationships between these nodes.
Yeah.
For example, this customer has this location, say,
Yeah.
and then saying, okay, give me the locations of all the customers with, I don't know, surnames beginning with J. Then you'd
Right.
get a temporary file back, which is also an MD.
Right.
And then the next call would be on that. So, given this, your next step is um, look up route IDs for those locations and tell me the common dates. And then you get another temporary
Right.
file. And
Right.
then
That's
you
right.
get
That's
some
right.
kind
That's
of,
right.
say, like, give me the count, which should be a self,
Right.
a dumbot. Would just say, for each, let me think this through. So for each bot, what we'd need is the data that you're talking for about in
Right.
MD. You would need a common dictionary because that's really important. Now, maybe
Well,
we
no, no, because
draw that in.
you'd make each call with the template and the data, and you'd be asking it a simple question to output a single line that represents the result of the query, you know, or do nothing, right? So, for example, if you wanted to,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
if
yeah.
you wanted to filter by everyone whose last name starts with J, you'd be like, here's this record, here's this template. Does the last name start with J? If yes, call this function. If no, call this one.
Yes, but we want NL to know that. Well, let's take first name, right? You could have first name, Christian name. There's probably various other versions of what first name is, and you want the MD just to have first name. So you need a definition saying first name means the first name of a
Yep. So
customer.
that right, but that's what's in the template here, and I wouldn't
Um,
mind. I wouldn't mind picking that. Being in Markdown and being presented with just a template and an instance, the bot would be
here's
it could
well,
draw
here's
on
the thing.
its
Yeah,
it
yeah,
can draw on its innate knowledge a bit more, right? Because
yeah.
it absolutely knows what a last name is, like without question.
Oh man, the amount of times that I've been struggling for it to actually understand what
No,
a second
but
name, a
yeah,
surname is,
but I
it
think
gets it
that
wrong.
yeah, but I think that's because you've been presenting it with a large amount of data. Yeah,
Yes, the more
right.
data, the more
The
wrong
more
it gets.
data, the
Yeah,
more wrong. Okay, so
yeah.
if you build the model or change the tooling that the machinery that you're picturing to be multiple parallel calls on a single customer record with a condensed output that is then accumulated and then processed for the final answer, that means that you should have a very low error rate because the
It sounds right, doesn't it? It sounds right.
yeah, that if you
Um,
gave it this very simple question, here's a template, here's some data, answer this question, that seems like you'd get an almost 100% hit rate.
well, there's okay. So how would it actually do this? I agree with this is a very interesting experiment
Okay.
to run.
Now
So
the
probably
way
what
I'd
we do,
imagined it the way I'd imagined it working is
hmm
that the human would say this thing that they want done, and
yeah,
then we'd be in a special mode called tentative mode. Tentative mode means that it builds this map reduce function only for like the first 20 customers and then checks back with the human, hey, is this what you meant? It's going to cost you $3, right? And then if you're like,
yeah.
no, I meant this thing, and you twiddle it a bit
All
here and
right,
there,
okay. So
right?
all
So
right,
you're just sort of doing it slowly, and then you're like, okay, hit it. And then it lights up
okay.
10,000 records and outputs your thing. You get dinged $3,
Right.
and
Okay.
then,
So we got a complete list of everyone in the world, and you say, "Give me everyone with starting with a J." It's
yeah,
like it's going to cost you $40, man. You sure?
that's
It's
right.
like boom. But then you've got an object, and then everything after that, it's like, can you tell me how many live in New Zealand, or Georgia, whatever?
Right, right. And it,
Uh, and then you've got
as
another object.
right, and now a pipeline forms, and the pipeline is
Right. Okay.
special in that it is able to be executed in parallel, but you run it in a small batch first, just to check and be like, look,
Right.
this is a dynamically generated query that we've never run before. Hey, human, is this right? And then
Right.
right, because they don't know either, and that's how people use apps. They poke around at all the bells and whistles, and they're like, tweak here, tweak there.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
meant. Blah 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 blah.
Okay, all right. So the
Right.
pipeline is you have a bunch of effectively a node here, a chunk of data,
Mm-hmm.
or multiple nodes, and you can query that, and it produces reduced set, which then goes into the next
Right,
step.
but it
The
queries
one
them
thing
one
I
at a time. One
right
at a
the
time.
the the thing I would just because I know what's going to happen. Um, what we need to do is, I think, have a dictionary of, to help the bot out,
Right.
um, that is dropped in as part of the query. So it's like, here's a dictionary and here's a whole bunch of data. And it could be anything, it could
Mm.
be the Roto Wanko engine. And it's like, oh, Roto Wanko engine is,
Right.
etc. So long as we drop in the dictionary, which can be a central-ish file, and so
Yeah.
you can update the
Yeah.
dictionary,
Terms. Yep. Yep.
um,
Yep.
and then you drop in all the data, and you give it a query, and then you get an output. Now, that's going to work. I can almost guarantee that's going to work.
Right. Instinctively,
Um,
that seems like it couldn't.
that
Like,
yeah, yeah.
that's the
There's
basic
not going to be
premise.
many hallucinations because
No.
basically we pistol whipped it by saying you have these definitions.
Yep.
Do not hallucinate with anything else.
Yep.
Here is a bunch of data that only use these as definitions,
Right.
but also you can play games around. First name also is Christian name because if you're modeling knowledge about that. Now, how do I then model the connections is the thing. So the reason the connections is the thing, if you think back at the planning bot, it needs to know that it doesn't know fuck all, and it needs to know that there's a thing called a customer and a thing called a route, and the route is a link between a location and a customer.
Yep.
So it needs an overarching idea of the structure
Yeah.
if
So
it's going
that's
to
in
make a plan.
that's in the template. The
So
temp.
but that would be also, hopefully, that would be that template would be a thing that the planning bot would be as unspecific as possible, and then
Right.
you say, okay, so here is a
Right.
template,
And
and
I
then
think that what
you
we'd
make a
do is
plan.
we just sort of keep feeding back in that template if it tried and it was wrong, and you're like, no, it's wrong, and then it would give more information into the template that it would have needed to get the right answer first time, and that's how we sort of iterate up how much
Yeah,
information goes into the template, right? Because
right.
surely there's an amount of information you can give that will give you the correct response, because so long as we can at all times be as close to the benchmarks as possible, like the chain of thought benchmarks, the one shot reasoning benchmarks. So long as we look like a benchmark, we're gonna get great results.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Right,
I agree with all that. So
yeah, it's because this
yeah,
doesn't look
yeah,
like a benchmark. This is not a benchmark. This is a holy shit. You actually need intelligence to
and
figure this out.
and yes, it was a pain.
Yeah,
However, okay, so the one of the things about 4 calls ago that I looked at
right,
was you were talking about the reciprocity. I can't say that. Going backwards and forwards, and so I started embedding in a customer its location, and its
right,
location was somewhere else, and then location was in the route ID, but also
right,
the route ID knew who the customer was, and
right.
that was a complete mess. So we need some way of telling a higher level planning bot that a
Yeah,
customer has one or more locations as just a statement of fact. A
yeah,
location can be included in a route. A
yeah.
route can have one or more times
Right,
or
right, right.
dates, that
But
sort of thing.
that's a good place to be because you're iterating the depth of the knowledge included in the template until you've given it enough that it gets it every time based on the test data. Whoopsie.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. I think there's something getting. Yeah, it feels right.
It does seem
And
right,
if
yeah.
this is if this the JSON was starting to get a pain in the arse, to be honest.
It's ugly. It's ugly. But so
Yeah,
this thing can. It's the key is that we can run in massively in parallel. That's why this can handle large data sets.
right. I know it's obvious that if we're talking about links, you can have bots that if bots can call other bots. What I'd expect is in MD format the location of the bot and what it can do. So, for example, a customer, for a top level customer bot saying this bot knows all the customers from M to Z. This
Mm,
bot knows customers from A to whatever, and then call another bot, and then very quickly get down to the lowest level, which is the one with the actual payload, and then come back up. Because once we get with a large number of customers, what you don't want is one of two things: one huge monolithic file, or a million individual files. So you want some way of tracing between those. So there's I don't know what you'd call it. There's like a it's like a mini dispatch bot, but it's like a routing bot, I guess. It's like, okay, so
I
I
think
know
that's just
that.
that just follows links, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It would be real small. It would be like
yeah.
top level A to M, N to Z, boom, boom, and
Right.
then you just spin up another bot,
Okay,
and
so
then maybe that's got it.
if you can figure out how to make that work, that's much easier for me to manipulate on disk and to present to the user in terms of raw display, but also in terms of diffing for when they go to say yes, I want to make
Right.
that change. Um,
Right.
it's also great that you can turn up to the customer and show them their actual data, and it makes sense. You're like, it's just plain text. It's it's plain text
Um,
files.
I would also add that it's much easier on the unit tests for coherence because a bunch of
Right.
rules. It's like customer name must not include, at signs
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever you
Right.
want.
Right.
You
Like
just
here's
run through.
a yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Here's a regex for the first name, um,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and you can yeah. Okay. So
Okay. No, I'm quite pumped for this. This is
okay.
good.
All right. Now the last thing I got to go in like 5 minutes, but the last
Yeah.
answer I need is what is the format of what's the publish pipeline? This one, right? Like
Oh, I've not spent any thought on that at all, really.
okay. Well, let me run you through some examples and
Yeah.
I'll leave it with you to think about. So this is the interface that we want to present to the customers, right? They come in, they've
Mm,
logged in, they've authenticated, um, they're in the CRM. They're not able to access any of the other help files. They're not able to
mm,
run other bots. They're constrained because this help file started almost in kiosk mode. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I boot you into a
That's a good
specific
term. Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
boot you into a specific help file and I made it so you can't jump out, then you can't do any of the advanced system functions because you're constrained to only what that help file can do. And
Yeah.
so you would be using HAL v2 to like generate these bots and release different versions and all that. These guys would only be seeing the help file version go up each time that a new one
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
occurred, right? And they don't really get a say in that. They can use these queries and all that, but basically the the help file, what's the word for it? It's coned, like it's a cone where this help file can access all the help files below it, but it can't go up.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And you
Right.
start
All right. Okay.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start
Yeah.
up. And so all I do is I publish a version of the static site that's hard coded to pick the tip of the cone to be lower than the admin level, right? And then
Yeah.
it only serves that, and so you can't jump the cone.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Which is like parallel sessions, isn't it? So you'd, let's say your personal HAL
Yeah,
says, "Hi, I want to do some work," and then you're now on a cone. And
yeah,
in that session jump that we talked about,
yeah.
and then perhaps you say, "Right, can I talk to HAL again?" Back up. I'd now like to go into a dating app. Boom.
Right,
You got a
right,
different cone,
right, right,
but
right.
there's no connection between these. Now, what you're saying is about deployment of new versions, right?
Yep.
So I guess,
So
uh, oh, that could be gnarly.
I'll hide the version up here so they don't actually see. All they'll see is they'll see slash hash um session
Oh,
ID equals blah blah blah. That's all they'll see,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then they can have multiple sessions and whatever. But down the bottom, I'll give them like the help name, and so the help name will be CRM, and the version will be like 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever you're up to, and then that publishes in here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the thing is, what constitutes a rollout? What is an update here? So, say if
Uh
we're on the CRM
yeah,
and all we've done is update this wee bot drone down here,
yeah,
your previous session is probably still sound,
right.
but this update may mean that you get unexpected behavior the next time you hit
All
that
right. So I
drone.
can well, okay. So what I can do is whatever thread you're in, the versions will never update in that thread, but it will notify you that there's a later version. So you should sort of close your work and
Right.
right.
We could probably do better than that in saying that there's been an update of this drone. This session, never talk to this drone, crack on. Or there's been an update in this cone. This bot is the bot that you're talking about to all the time, and
Yeah.
so you're now retrieving a session that the previous version of the bot would have done
Right.
one thing, and the new version is doing something else, and so
Right.
you need to pay attention to that.
Well, I guess
So,
we could test for that before we publish to make sure that it was backwards compatible with any open sessions that haven't been closed yet. But
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, we
honestly,
could do that.
I think
Yeah.
that's too fine a detail a concern for now. Like we'll just I can easily make it so that the 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 bot won't update mid session. It'll only
Well,
update when you get back to
I think
base.
it would be enough to if you were half session and there was an update of a bot
Yeah.
for us to say a bot that you've relied on in the past has been updated.
Mm.
Please be careful. You know, uh, I think it would be enough to just red flag it and saying
Mm.
like there's been a change. we don't even need to say what the impact of that change is. We could, in due course,
Yeah,
run back through this hierarchy and be nice.
yeah, you
But
could
it's like,
just add it as a flag to the to Overwatch,
yeah,
where Overwatch is just like, well, look, this guy sort
yeah.
of split brained this session, and so
Oh, how about a rerun? Um, how about a bot in your half done session has changed? Would you like to rerun your session?
oh
And
yeah,
all we'd
look,
be doing
honestly,
is
I don't,
rerunning the
yeah,
prompts.
I actually don't care too much about that detail. If we just even
Yeah,
dump them
yeah,
out
I'm
the
getting too
session,
far into. That'd be
it's like,
cool. It would be cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
Well, that sounds like deployment. So it'll just
right.
be one level
Yep.
lower, and they're tracking the help version that you are publishing. That's what's
Yep.
being tracked, and so it
Yeah.
knows what the latest version is, and anytime they refresh the page, they get that latest version.
Yeah, but importantly, for your entire cone might consist of n bots,
Mm.
of which one bot is being updated, and that could be a deploy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So that's
and the
that,
rest has stayed the
right,
same.
right. But
So
it's not actually
yeah,
a deploy; it's a pull. It's just a git pull.
right,
So
yeah. It could be quite incremental. Yeah.
yeah. All right.
And so
Well, that's
so
and
it's
then
like, is it the same as before? No, there's a new one.
yeah,
Um,
yep. Okay, and then we'll just
yeah,
we'll invite our customers to just use that. Um, we're like, here's your prototype version. We can see all their sessions, so we can use the data to figure out what went wrong.
right. Right, because what's the worst that's going to happen is you're halfway through a session and weirdness happens because one of the bots has been changed a lot. But because you're halfway through a session, you haven't got to the commit button to make changes. The more important thing is the data stays coherent.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
We'll just run it and see what happens. I don't.
yeah,
We're not going to solve
yeah,
that
no,
problem now.
yeah, no, I don't think we do. I think we just need to highlight it saying you probably want to restart a session because there's such a change.
All right,
But
I
crack
better
on if you're looking.
bounce, man. I better bounce.
Yeah, no worries, man. That was really, really helpful. Right.
Uh,
I'll
yeah, it's all
I'll get
good.
onto the
Okay,
MD stuff.
all right, and I'll start integrating those the changes we discussed in our last two calls, and I'll give you a
Yep.
buzz when it's done. Probably be sometime tomorrow.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
All right. See
Peace.
you, man.
See you later.